in our last video, we put new brake pads in Marlene's Saturn Aura XR 2009 year because they wanted like $200 the front, $200 for the rear, $400 not the Chevrolet dealer. So we picked up the pads at Napa and did it for about around $80. Same time, they wanted to charge us $485. That's $485 to put in the light for that high-level light that's on the back of the cars nowadays. That all the PC and all the do-gooders had to add to that about 10 years ago. Anyway, you know, in the old days when I was a kid, all we had to do was buy a 25-cent light bulb and put it in ourselves, and we were off and running again. Well, that doggone high-level stop lamp, if you don't have it, it gives the police a good reason to pull you over and stop you, and then they run you through the grill, just like Mueller does. They stop you for one thing, and then they start interrogating you, and they go after something else, and they might get you for 9,000 pounds of marijuana or something that you didn't know was stuffed in there inside your hubcap. Well, we don't have hubcaps anymore. Inside the body panels or someplace, I don't know, wherever people hide that stuff nowadays, false floor or something. Anyway, so we got on the internet and we found this universal stop lamp for high-level stop lamp for $6.95 or $6.99. I don't remember which exactly, and that included the postage. I thought, man, such a deal, so I ordered that. And this afternoon, Teeny Weeny and we got busy and put that in the Saturn. So therefore, instead of $485, we got that stoplight fixed by putting in a new one over the old one. We got that fixed for, let's see, maybe $7 or $478 savings. So that's what we did there. Anyway, here's a few shots of the installation for your viewing pleasure, so to speak. Here's the new universal stop lamp we got for about $6.95 or something like that. It's got like 14 LEDs in there. There's double-sided tape on these legs, so it'll go into the back shelf of the car like this. It's not as big and bright and powerful as the one that was in there, but who cares? As long as you got the light, the coppers aren't going to give you any grief. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try it out. We got our power supply set to 13.2 volts there. And here are leads coming out, so we're going to hook those up and we're going to see what we get. All right. Got it hooked up and looks pretty good to me. It's putting out a lot of light. Actually, that's going to work out just fine for us. It's a lot better than $485, but we still have to install it, so we'll see how that goes. Nice little light, if I do say so myself. We'll disconnect it. Okay. Let's go put her in the car. There's a new light bar all wired up and Velcroed in place. TV's fired it up. There she is. She's just the way it's supposed to be. Okay, hit the brake. There you go. Looks pretty good to me. We just tapped into the existing brake light wires, velcroed that baby in, and there it is. I paid $6.99 for that thing, free shipping. And not as big as the other one, but that's okay. Johnny Law doesn't care about that as long as you got a light affair. So we got that taken care of now. Yeah. Good job, Teeny Weeny, good job. I mean, it looks almost like stock. Nobody's going to even know the difference. Pretty cool. Okay, that's how you take care of that. Saturn Aura is better than new. Just a few thoughts on this stoplight business. To start with, the LEDs that are used to replace bulbs nowadays, or especially in the mid-range to more expensive cars, are supposedly a lot better deal than the old incandescent bulbs for several reasons. The main one to me is reliability. Those things ought to run forever if they're not abused. But sometimes they are over voltage. There's a big problem with some of them. You'll blow those little babies up with just a millisecond or two of real high voltage crossing the line. But normally that's not the case. It's pretty easy to protect against that kind of thing. They should really never blow out. Once you've designed the circuit properly and you've installed them, they should run forever, at least our lifetimes. That's what I think. So therefore, it's probably a pretty good idea. The problem is, in a way, is that the LEDs are more expensive the way these car manufacturers do things. For example, the OEM replacement for the tail light, that upper level stop light, in the Marlene Saturn was $140. That's just for the light. Then you have the labor of putting it in. You have to take the whole rear shelf out if you do it properly. I mean, it's a job. That's why the repair bill was so expensive on that thing. $485. That's ridiculous. Stop lights and tail lights are very important for the safety of everybody, not only the driver, but everybody who's around the driver. You got to be able to see those things at night. You got to be able to see when the brake lights get jammed on. I mean, that's pretty important, by golly. So the idea in the old days used to always be to make the repairs on brakes and lights as cheaply as possible. For years on the headlights, it was a national standard that they had to be round like that. They had to all be exactly the same size on all vehicles, so that vehicle designers were sort of saddled into that particular design criteria. Well, of course, today now they've modified that too. You have headlights that nobody ever imagined that are square and different bulbs, halogen bulbs, LED. I mean, it's a cook's mixture of different sizes and shapes. And why they did that, I guess, was for style, but it sure didn't do anything for us in terms of reliability and economics of replacement. I mean, that's a fact. My goodness, like I said, back in the old days, we could get a 25-cent 1104 bulb and replace just about every light on our car. I just looked on the internet. I get those babies yet for about 12 cents each. Well, they came along and decided they wanted to put these high-level bulbs on there. They did a couple of studies. I think using taxi cabs in New York or something at one time. And everybody got together, all these big wigs, and said, we got to have those because it's going to save a lot of lives. Well, whether it did or not, that's subject to interpretation. However, figures lie and liars figure. You can look at all these figures and make them say about anything you want if you're pretty good with figures. That's what I've always said anyway. Anyhow, this business with the LEDs, when I work on an older piece of electronic gear with pilot lights and that sort of thing that use the old incandescent lights, it's pretty common that I'll just stick an LED in there along with a current limiting resistor, and I use those LEDs in place of the old, sometimes hard to find incandescent bulbs. GE55 comes to mind. That's a pretty common one. Well, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is just buy a supply of those GE55s, and they probably last for the rest of your life. Get them 50 in a pack or something like that. But I kind of like the LEDs. I think it spiffs up the equipment. There's another little thing about LEDs on your automobiles and your tail lights and brake lights is they come on instantly. With an incandescent bulb, it takes, probably a tenth of a second, be about 100 milliseconds to turn on. And there's a surge at the beginning of the current surge at the beginning of the turn on process when you step on the brake, for example, because the filament is cold and it doesn't have the resistance that it has once it lights up and starts to glow. If you're going 70 miles an hour, that's about 10 feet or so, 12 feet before the light comes on. There's another thing that has to do with first derivative of the way your eyes work, calculus again, but your eyes will detect, and you'll see the instant turn on is going to make an impression in your brain a lot faster than even that gradual turn on of about 100 milliseconds. So that's another factor, and that's why you can tell when you're driving down the road and you look at the cars in front of you. The ones that have the LED lights are going to stick out. When everybody slams on their brakes, you'll be able to pick them out. There's one. Hey, there's another one up there. Yes, sir, Bob. That's how that works. Anyway, this ought to be cheap and easy to do. To me, these guys designed these automobiles, and I've always sworn that what the engineers ought to have to do is work in the repair shop for a while, go out there and fix these damn cars themselves. They design nuts and bolts and pieces and nicks and crannies and corners. You got to take a whole damn car apart to get that piece out of there to work on it. But I used to be able to change a water pump in probably an hour and a half on my old V8 engines, and now they've done with this overhead valve system is they stuck those suckers inside all the front covers where the timing chain is located, and those timing chains don't last forever either. You got to tear a fender off in a lot of cases and dig all the way in, or take the radiator out and tear the whole damn car apart before you can get at that water pump. To do a $50 replacement job on a water pump can cost you as high as $1,000 nowadays. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm not ranting, I'm telling you like it is. That's what I'm doing here. Well, these stoplights again, to get back on them, it really irked me when I thought about paying the guy the $485, saying, the heck with it. The more I thought about it, the more I thought, this doesn't make sense. I was thinking back, of course, to my 56 Thunderbird there. I've had to change light bulbs in that before. I just flip the old one out, take one of those 12-cent replacements and pop that baby in there. I mean, I'm off and running again just like that, and I'm safe. I mean, I've got my brake lights are working. Well, with these LEDs, you shouldn't ever lose them. They should never go out, which is nice for the reliability. You don't have to worry about a copper pulling you over just because you got a tail light out and then starting to really check you out and get you for something else, like I mentioned before. If he's got a dog, he's liable to find that little stash of marijuana you got in the back seat. Now, I don't use that stuff, but a lot of people do, I guess, nowadays. I stay away from that myself. I don't drink while I drive anymore either. That's too dangerous. Yep, I just think that's a bad deal. That's why you get married. You get yourself a teetotaler kind of wife, and you set her behind the wheel, and then you go at it. You go down to the local bar and go at it. If she's not with you, you call her later, tell her to come get you and go home. Otherwise, you got this new Uber thing that I guess works pretty well. I haven't tried that yet either, but one of these days I may try that just as a backup plan. So that's about all I've got to say about those LEDs and the repair costs, that kind of thing. I'm not real happy about that. The brake thing with that labor charge on the brake thing. Mechanics nowadays, the shops are charging, I think, probably $80 to $100 an hour for labor working on your automobile. That's not so bad. I mean, they know what they're doing. They get in there. They've done it before a bunch of times. They should, because it's their business. They tear in there and bam, wham, slam, bam, thank you, man. They're done with the job in no time, but it still adds up and it gets pretty expensive. They don't tell you that when you buy the car. They take you out there with a smile on their face and introduce you to the service manager. They don't tell you you're going to see a lot more of him in the future, depending on what kind of car you're looking at. I've been looking at this new Mercedes 2018 E400 series. And I really like that car, but the reports I read on it are saying that the reliability isn't really what it should be yet either. So I'll look at the BMW, and then we'll go look at a Ford. But the Ford guys, they're cutting out their sedan manufacturing now. I hate that. Those Crown Vics were wonderful cars. That was based on the old LTD. We had a 77 LTD that I'm telling you, we drove that sucker all over the place, well over 100,000 miles on that thing, and it just ran perfectly. So I liked a big old boat of a car. It just sat down there on the highway and just, I mean, you could go anywhere in that and feel just as rested when you got there as when you took off. Well, okay, that's it for now. Oh, one thing I was going to add is that these LEDs are current devices, not really voltage. They use resistors in their current limiting resistors, we call them, to cut the current down. So they have a 0.7 or so volt voltage drop, the resistor. So cut the 12 volts down to allow only a certain amount of current to flow through. And rule of thumb, current to drive an LED is about 20 milliamperes. Incandescent bulb, that's about an amp sometimes, 0.95, I think, on the 1104. Of course, that surges up when you turn it on. But that's quite a bit of current when you figure that's 950 milliamps, and a little LED will light at 20 milliamps. That's 21 thousandth of an ampere for those of you that give a damn. And if you did, like, let's see, I got my calculator going here. Let's say I got 0.02 amperes times, let's say I've got a normal light with their stoplight with 24 LEDs. So I'll multiply that times 24.02, and let's see, 24 times 0.02 equals 0.48. That's about a half an amp. So I'm running 24 LEDs, with half the power it would take me to run one 1104. It's another advantage of putting the bulbs in the old circuitry. It cuts down the current requirements to get a comparable amount of light out of them. And of course, it's instantaneous light, which is really nice. I like the idea of giving the guy behind me an extra 100 milliseconds to slam on his brakes. And with that, I'm going to call it a day. Ciao. We're out of here.